Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot coming at you with the weekly comic book roundup. We've covered this week's X-Men books as well as a few others. Now it's time to keep on trucking with the roundup. Kicking things off, we've got Miles Morales Spider-Man number 4. Where we left off, Miles had been confronted by his new enemy, Rabble, who was up for basically the spot at Brooklyn Horizons Academy that Miles ended up winning. She has captured both Gank and Starling, and intends to go after Miles' parents and his baby sister. So Miles takes on Raoul, who does seem to who's got some tech-based. Her powers are granted through tech. The powers she has are granted through tech, and seems to be controlling at least specific tech, the tech that she's built. So, but yeah, Miles gets his ass handed to him pretty squarely. But afterwards, Rabble goes back to her hideout, and Starling notes that it seems to take a lot out of her. Potentially saying that maybe she has maybe it's causing a brain hemorrhage. And anyway, Misty Knight fishes Miles out of the river. He tells her what's going on, and she says, "Hey, look, you know." And she gives him some advice. At first, he knowing Rabble's plan, he's not entirely keen on the advice, but once all of it's once she explained the whole plan, well, yeah, makes sense. And so they go after Rabble with Miles splitting off to go make sure his family's safe. It takes a little bit of work for Misty to follow the drone that she salvaged from the river, but she manages to find Starling and Gank. However, there's an alarm system, a security system within Rabble's hideout that is motion activated. And so, in trying to save Gank and Starling, Misty activated it. When Miles arrives at his home, the building is blazing, and Ravel's there waiting for him. And that is where the issue ends. Now, first, I'm fairly certain that Miles' family is going to be okay. It's one of those things that it's like more often than not, in a Peter Parker Spider-Man book. If an issue ends with something looking like if an issue ends with something happening to Aunt May, generally speaking, you can pretty much count on her being okay. By the end of the following issue. So, but still, good. I'm liking where the story's going. So, overall, moving on to our next book, we've got Gold Goblin number 5, the final issue of the Gold Goblin miniseries. Where we left off, Norman Osborn was having been somewhat implicated in a circumstantial manner in the death of the most recent Jack-o'-lantern. Norman is trying to make amends. Went to Owen Ward, said most recent Jack-o'-lantern's funeral, and upon heading back, discovered that his driver had been replaced by Ashley Kafka, aka the Goblin, or Queen Goblin. They fight it out, and Norman finds one of his old goblin supply caches while thinking about all the things that he's done and reflecting on his past sins. Um, but Queen Goblin tries to use her goblin gaze to return Norman's sins to him. But with what happened with the Sin Eaters, his soul is something of a mirror now. So her basically so it's kind of a feedback loop. Norman grabs her scepter, smacks her around with it, and briefly before escaping, but Queen Goblin is dealing with with everything from Norman, including the guilt he now feels about the death of Gwen Stacy. Though she works past that, destroying the apparition that she sees of all of Osborn's victims. Norman goes to see Peter, and apparently Dr. Kafka's on television explaining that Norman basically going on about all of Norman's problems, which, yes, okay, or, you know, there's still a lot of stuff about what she says still ring true. So Peter and Norman suit back up as Spider-Man and the Gold Goblin, and they confront Dr. Kafka, and she goblins out on television. Big fight between the three of them, mostly between Gold Goblin and Goblin Queen, or Queen Goblin. And in fact, Norman gets impaled by part of her glider. Spider-Man points out that while fighting Queen Goblin himself, that her whole shtick's based on Norman, and if there's one sparring partner he's had a lot of time to study, it's Norman Osborn. So she goes with a new tactic and tries to give Norman's sins to Peter, but turns out with the fact that her scepter can be kind of broken apart into basically like it has with a chain kind of the two halves. Norman picks up the scepter and uses it to wraps it part around Goblin Queen's neck, pulls back and snaps it. In death, Goblin Queen reverses Ashley Kafka. Norman clearly did not want to kill her, but as he had to. And the series ends with Norman embracing guilt. This was a good book. I liked it. Its brief foray into dark web was so-so, but it did provide some additional plot beats. So, but overall, it was a good book. It was a good series. I liked it. I dug it. So, moving on though to our next book, we've got Red Goblin #2. In Red Goblin #1, Norman Osborn Jr., Norman Osborn's grandson, is he's got the piece of symbiote that he was gifted by his friend Dylan Brock, and well, he's not trying to avoid bonding with the symbiote, but he's also doing what he can to be something of a hero with it. And he stumbled upon some members of Goblin Nation. They went back to their leader and told him what's happened, and the leader revealed himself to be none other than Phil Urich, and figured that, clearly, this Red Goblin, that's an assassin sent by Osborn. Well, he wants to try and kill me. I'm going to try and kill him first. And so, Uric and the Goblin Nation went to an open kidnapped Osborn. So we get some backstory on what happened to Phil Uric. I actually was unaware he had been killed. But he had been killed during the Red Goblin arc of Amazing Spider-Man. However, it turns out that the Goblin Serum halts cell death, temporarily at least. So he rose from the grave, already somewhat decomposed, found the Goblin Nation, and, well, yeah, took over as the Goblin King. At school, Normie gets assaulted by some bullies, but he shows self-control as his mother instructed him to, show some restraint. But one of the other students kind of helps him a bit, and basically states that bullies are like sharks. They smell blood in the water, they keep circling back, and, well, that gives Norman an idea. But Goblin Nation has been harvesting Norman's blood for additional Goblin Serum, which Phil shares with the various members. Norman suits up with Rascal and makes some changes to how he looks. Goes to save his grandfather, fighting Goblin King, and however, when the fight seems to be more in Phil Uric's favor, Norman allows Rascal to let loose a bit. He manages to save his grandfather. However, Norman is hallucinating and is suffering blood loss and doesn't see Red Goblin, rather sees Spider-Man. But Norman and Normie are attacked by Phil, though Norman also gets some hits in. But before they can escape, well, the rest of Goblin Nation is blocking their path. And that is where the issue ends. I'm digging this book. I like what they're doing with Normie Osborn. Back during the Red Goblin arc, he was also given a sliver of the Carnage symbiote and was kind of Red Goblin's Goblin sidekick, and yeah. So he's understandably a bit hesitant. He doesn't want to fully bond with the symbiote that Dylan's given him. Moving on to our next book, we've got Hulk number 13. Now, I think I said last month that this was supposed to be the last issue. I'm wrong. Next month, this is the last issue. But where we left off, Titan had taken over. So we open flashback to the creation of Bruce's Mind Palace, which has since been renovated into the control room for Starship Hulk. We also have Hulk talking with Doctor Strange about what happened in El Paso, with Hulk telling Strange that he's leaving and not to look for him. We also see a bit of how all of the surgery got implanted in the Hulk, including the fact that when it came to implanting into his head, he shaved his head and then literally tore his skull open. But Doc Samson, now Sasquatch, has gotten in touch with Doctor Strange Doctor Strange sends his astral form through the portal and manages to catch up to Hulk on Monolith's world. She has just been devastated. So many of her people are now dead. She's horribly wounded. And, well, yeah. Titan kills more of the Monolith's people, absorbing their gamma energy. Strange's astral form manages to infiltrate the Mind Palace and see what's what. And goes after the mental form of Titan. But Titan manages to force him out. And Strange realizes he knows who's behind this. Titan continues his rampage on Monolith's world. While Strange's astral form returns with an orb and discovers that behind all of it is the demon Despair. Though Despair explains that this was not his plan. He's just part of it. Monolith attacks Titan, tries to get Bruce to help her fight him, but she gets one of her head horns ripped off for her efforts, and meanwhile, Titan manages to pull Doctor Strange's body through the portal. That is where the issue ends. And like I said, the next issue is supposed to be the finale of this arc. So that'll be our conclusion. Moving on, though, to our last book for the moment, we've got Secret Invasion number 5. Where we left off, Maria Hill had been captured, or had been taken prisoner by the Skrulls. And they're interrogating her and Nick Fury. And we're really more just beating on them. And explaining their plan, and how the original Secret Invasion didn't work because, oh yeah, they went after superheroes. Okay, this time they're going after U.S. government officials, namely those that have access to nuclear codes. How better to take over the world than take over the biggest nuclear arsenal on the planet? And it looks like they're about to unleash Armageddon. But once the plan's explained, Maria breaks out laughing. But she explains everything. It was stated earlier on that a few issues back that Maria killed the Skrulls who were working for Tony. Turns out she didn't. We saw her fire in their direction. But it was a test to see how they would react under pressure. And so she decided that as they reacted well under pressure, okay, all right. And so they started working with Maria. Her and Tony faked a fight. Made the fight look convincing, and in fact, Maria Hill that the Skrulls have captured is in fact a Skrull, and well, the Avengers show up. Captain Marvel manages to stop the nukes from detonating, and Maria reflects on the fact that she was looking at the Skrulls, even the ones that were working with Tony, as just Skrulls. That she wasn't seeing them as individuals, and she thinks that's kind of part of her job with the CIA is kind of led to her. Hell, her job her work in the intelligence community in general has led to that, to her having that outlook. And so she wants to try and fix things. But as Maria and Fury part ways, Fury calls Tony Stark, wanting to talk to the Skrulls. Asking him if they'd consider a job saving the world in a more formal capacity. And that's where the series ends. We have a tease for a book coming in May, Fury #1. So, focusing on Nick Fury, and we're going to cover the decades-old mystery. Yes, we'll be picking that up. But overall, I like this. It's very clearly just something to, it's designed as a reminder that, hey, Secret Invasion's coming at some point in the near-ish future. But still, it was overall, they at least there was some effort put into it. Anyway, that's going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.